Hi guys, welcome to Westminster Uncensored. I'm Michael Heaver.
I'm Patrick Christie.
And so much to talk about on today's show. It's been a while, so thank you very much for joining us. But we're going to be talking about Brexit, so much more across the world. But we start really, and of course we want you to jump in and tell us what you think as we go, guys. By the way, I hope you are enjoying the sun, enjoying the fantastic England performances in the World Cup. I think we're going to go all the way, but then again, I say that every single time.
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it?
It's the hope that kills you. But come on, this is the year, surely. But look, guys, we start with a very, very serious story. You'll know now, for a long time, we at Westminster have been focusing on the jihadi threat, the absolute madness, the basket case of a policy whereby hundreds and hundreds of jihadists who have been to support ISIS abroad are allowed into Britain, and we've seen the latest case paper.
Yeah, nothing epitomises Britain's catastrophic border policy or political policy with regards to returning jihadis than this case. A Taliban bomb maker who made 300 bombs, admitted to making 300 bombs, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, admitted to fighting against British troops, was allowed back into the country where he was arrested with a bag full of knives in Westminster, walking down the street, and has now been found guilty of plotting a terror attack and 2 counts of possessing an explosive substance with intent. Now, people are going on and on about, oh, well, he was a British citizen, so he had the right to come home. You lose the right to come home, you lose the right to British citizenship the second that you decide to fight for the enemy, as far as I'm concerned, the second you decide to join a terrorist organisation, travel abroad and fight against British troops. He's been allowed back into Britain where, let's be honest, if he'd have had his way, he'd have killed people just across the road from where we're sat now, civilians like you or me, anyone, just random people getting off a tube, no doubt. So yeah, you know, you really have to ask the question, what on earth is this government playing at, really?
Guys, if you're enjoying the stream, as ever, please help spread the word about what we're doing here. Give us a retweet, give us a like, dive in and tell us what you think. We're going to go to a few comments in a minute on this, but I just want to, you know, this is insane, guys.
Yes,
we've talked about time and time again now about why are people that have gone abroad to support ISIS being allowed back into the country.
Yeah.
You know, 1 or 2 is a security risk, but for hundreds of jihadists who have been to go and support these rapists, child abusing, torturing, murderous bastards, frankly, to go and support them and then be allowed back here. Why is that being allowed to happen? And as you know, just on this specific case, this guy, you know, I listened to some analysis this morning. Just imagine this: he spent around 5 years building bombs with Al-Qaeda, Taliban, whoever. He says he's detonated hundreds of bombs. He's then been allowed to walk back into the country, and fine, he's been under surveillance. But I heard something this morning from a security expert that really, really shocked me. Actually, put this in perspective. He was under surveillance. And he bought knives. And they said, well, he came out of the knife shop, we saw him do it, but we couldn't get him because we were waiting for an armed unit to come on the scene. What if he hadn't gone to Westminster? What if he had come out of that shop and attacked with those knives that he just bought the first person that he come across? Yeah. These are chances that are being taken that affect me, you, our families, the safety and security of this country. Whether people are being surveilled or not, I mean, you cannot predict what these people are going to do next. And as I say, this is one case. The burden on securities of the National Security Service to have hundreds of these people being surveilled is mad.
It's crazy.
It's mad. Tell us what you think.
The thing is, I mean, I'll go to a few of your comments, but obviously I've got more to add on this. But it's the government that's allowed it, then they should all be jailed. That's from Colin Davies. Well said, guys, from George Carr. There was a brilliant one down here. I'm just going to dig it out now from Valerie Mather. Thank you, Valerie, for getting in touch. Saying we are all at risk from the person convicted. We were all at risk from the person convicted yesterday. They had evidence of his fingerprints on bomb-making equipment in Afghanistan. You're right. In 2012, his fingerprints were handed over to American Special Forces because they were found on bomb-making equipment. Now, despite that, you're telling me you're not on a register then? You're telling me you're not on some kind of list? You obviously are. And then he's been allowed back into Britain. Now, this is the point that really gets me, is how fast and loose, how cavalier this government is clearly willing to play with the safety and security of common, ordinary people. Well, because it's not just like he's come back into the country. He's living somewhere, isn't he? He could be living next door to your parents. He could be moving in next door to mum and dad. You could be sat next to him on the tube. You know, and the fact is the government's content for this to happen. And you're telling me, okay, well, maybe if we follow him back in Britain, we might pick up the trail of another terrorist cell in Britain. You know what you have done? You've added to a terrorist cell and you've let it get very bloody close to actually killing people before you've stepped in. I'm sorry, it's an outright dereliction of duty. And how long will it be? Because there are hundreds of them here. How long will it be, actually, before one of these guys isn't stopped and before it emerges that the government has known that a terrorist with battle-hardened experience has come back into this country, we've let him back into this country, and he's then killed civilians? That is going to be a very dark day for Britain.
It's absolutely crazy, guys. If you're enjoying what we're doing, again, give us a retweet, give us a like. Make sure you go to westmonster.com/support if you want to support what we're doing here, guys. We're not sugarcoating anything.
No.
The security situation in this country is pretty bloody dire. We have got the world leading security service in terms of their capability and their know-how, and thank God we have got that, because they're the ones preventing these attacks. But the fact is, to turn around and say as a society that people are allowed to go and stand side by side with the jihadists, go and support them, go and fight British troops was another one with this guy. Actively engaging against our troops, and then walk back into the country. I'm sorry, that is absolutely insane. These people, and some ministers have said it, by the way, including the Defence Secretary, these people, the policy should be this, guys. Let me know what you think. The policy should be, if you go over there, you're never returning, you're completely barred, and preferably, please, let's kill them. Because we don't want them killing British troops. We don't want them going back anywhere in Europe and killing innocent people. These people are brutal, nasty terrorists, and they need taken out. They don't need to be allowed to walk around the streets of Britain.
At the end of the day, I would say to anyone who's got the mindset of, well, they are British citizens, maybe we should try to rehabilitate them, maybe we should invite them back. Okay, all right, but then move them into your spare room. How about that? Move them next door to you. Why don't you let them send their kids to the same school as your kids? No, I'm sorry, you wouldn't have it, would you? Well, we shouldn't have to put up with it either. If he was moving into number 11 Downing Street, you can be damn well sure he wouldn't have been allowed back into the country, right? And I think that's the real problem that we've got here. It's the unnecessary endangering of people from what is already a pretty dicey situation with regards to extremism in Britain at the minute. The government at the minute is only adding to it. And I'm sorry, but if you show me a person, really, that could have any qualms about the fact, is this or is this not somebody that's travelled abroad to be a terrorist for 5 years and actively fought against British troops? You show me a person off the back of that thinks that person should be let back into the country, and I'll show you an idiot.
On a moral level, guys, and just to finish with this before we go on to our next subject, I strongly disagree with the idea or the principle that I or anybody else in this country should in the morning be getting on the train or getting on the tube or walking the streets side by side with someone who has trained, supported, potentially killed. That can't be right.
No, it's just
that
not.
cannot be right. And you can talk to me about monitoring and all this bollocks, but frankly, when you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people, on top of the watch list that we've already got in this country, I think it's complete dereliction of duty. I think it's mad. I think we're putting our security service under way too much strain. We need to stop letting these people come back into our country. They're not welcome.
So Raymond Stewart's been in touch. I wouldn't even call them animals, as it's an insult to animals. Marie Duncan's just saying Britain's a soft touch. And I mean, that's it, isn't it? We obviously are a soft touch. It's the suspension of all logic and reason that allows for these things to happen. I cannot get my head around it. And the reality is, I think we're going to move on in a second now, but the reality is, if one of these, and let's just really hope it doesn't happen, obviously, but let's just say one of these returning jihadis who does, go and let a bomb off somewhere and people die. What would, if Theresa May should ask herself this, what would she say at that press conference or on the steps of Downing Street when it's emerged that this person's come back? What possible justification can there have been for allowing that person back into the country? There is nothing to say. Right, so you shouldn't let it happen, should you, Theresa? I think that's my piece on it anyway.
Guys, if you support what we're doing here, as ever, go and visit westmonster.com/support if you want to support us. There's so many things going on at the minute with Brexit and everything else, but here's a story that I think it goes to the heart of sort of multiculturalism and national identity and patriotism and all that kind of stuff. There's a story...
Stuff we like.
Yeah, absolutely. Sikh shop owner, we did this story a couple of days ago, received an anonymous handwritten letter in broken English, basically saying that he'd forgotten about his motherland and he shouldn't be flying the England flag from his shop. Now, it's one of those, and fair play to the geezer. I mean, he's turned around and he basically told him to get knotted.
Yeah.
He said, I ain't interested, just go away, you silly little man or lady. But the fact is, it says a lot, doesn't it? There's a lot going on here. You've got a very clearly patriotic, Sikh shop owner, the exact sort of backbone of this country, small business people, patriotic, believe in the country, believe in our values, part of our culture. And then at the same time, you've got idiots like this abusing people for displaying the flag of the country in which they've made their lives. Now that shows you, I'm afraid, that there's some people in this country who are actually dead set against integration, have no interest in it, and just want to stoke up division all the time. And you get these people, you've got the far left who basically want to trash the history of our country. You've got these nutcases who think that if you've got certain skin colour, you shouldn't be flying the England flag. Correct. And then, of course, you've got the sort of the sort of more watered down lefties who basically just like turn their nose up at flying any flag, apart from, of course, the EU flag. My God, by the way, did you see how many of them had the EU flag out? I mean, can you imagine that they've probably got the England flag flying now from the houses, aren't they? Proud, patriotic people. No, these are the types of people that fly the EU flag. But if you had any sort of rally or event with the England flag out and about, no doubt that would be xenophobic and wrong and deeply disturbing to these people. That's the paradox.
I actually think like the type of people that went on that People's Vote March, they used to be the type of people that I think previously used to cry alone in the shower, and now they've formed some kind of union and they've decided to go and march on the streets of London. Sad acts to a man or woman. But anyway, in terms of this flag thing, now
we've got a massive response to this, guys.
We've had a loaded thumbs up here from Andrew Locke. Amanda Mandy, regular on the show, all right, Amanda, saying, good on this chap, standing strong and doing what is right.
Absolutely.
My basic view on it is, look, if you're the type of person that gets offended by seeing an English flag flying in England, then I don't know how you find the strength to get out of bed and get dressed in the morning, personally, to be honest. I mean, I really don't see what the problem is. I was driving down the other day, I live in Finchley in North London, driving down, Iran were playing Portugal, was it yesterday, I think?
Yeah.
And there's a big Iranian community there. They're all driving around with the flags on the cars, tooting the horns. You know what? It's a brilliant atmosphere. I enjoyed it because that was where they were originally from. They probably not moved it. It didn't seem like that many of them had been here particularly long. That was great. By the same token, you've got a shopkeeper who's got an English flag outside his shop. Good on him. Brilliant. England are playing the World Cup, aren't they? Come on.
So as a follow-up to this, we got a guy, really nice chap actually, it's called Amandeep Singh Bogle, who did us a piece for Westminster. I think we can bring that up as well. There he is at the top. He did us, did a piece saying basically fly the flag for him and ignore all of this nonsense. Day after day after day, whether it's the media or politicians or whoever, telling us that we shouldn't be proud of our national identity and our culture. Ignore all of that. Actually, patriotism and national identity is what can bring people together. A sense of common identity. These are positive things. These are things to be celebrated.
Absolutely.
And he ends the piece by saying, be like the shopkeeper from Ilford, respect our national flags, respect your nation, be proud, be patriotic, get the flags out, cheer on the boys, we're bringing it home, football's coming home, I cannot wait. But this is what it is, mate. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your country and being proud of your flag. And anyone who doesn't like it, they can do one.
Yeah,
simple as that.
I think it's a great unifying feature, and look, I get that for some people it's got a tainted history, but you know what, if you go back with anything far enough, you can dig up a load of nonsense about it as well, and you can find some negatives about absolutely anything. The fact is, a flag is a unifying feature, and I know, for example, if I moved to another country in the world and I'd spent, the majority of my life there and I'd raised children there, etc., I would be proud, I would hope, to stand under that flag. I would not forget my roots, of course not, I'd always be English or British. But I would always also have the respect of that country and that flag. I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. I think to create a cohesive society, one where we all get on and have a good sense of community, it's important. We can all stand united under one flag without all this ridiculous division that I think is causing at the minute.
Now, guys, we do like to make this nice and interactive, so just going to have a little interlude here because we've got Amanda saying anything on the news or the BB about the royal assent. So, just to update you guys, the EU Withdrawal Act, as it's now known, has been given royal assent. And the Queen has signed off on it. So, it's another step to independence. Don't get me wrong, there's a hell of a lot of fights and battles up ahead to get the kind of Brexit and full independence that we voted for, that we know we want. The politicians now constantly spend their time saying, you didn't want, you didn't vote for, you weren't told about. Because, of course, they know best, not you. I mean, they said they would implement the decision, but they didn't really mean it, did they? Well, some of them did and some of them didn't. No, guys, look, bit by bit, we're moving towards independence. But as ever, we at Westminster are going to keep fighting every step of the way because we know that you want full independence, end of open borders, out the customs union, out the single market, all of that. Nothing less will do.
Out no ties, says Cara Davies. You're nailing your colours to the mast, nailing your flag to the mast, one would say. Out no ties. There we go.
Now the next story, Patrick, I'm going to let you lead those, but I just want to, this is an old school. This is a very old school thing, isn't it, guys? Let me just throw something at you for how we can solve crime in this country.
Okay,
here's an idea. Here's an idea.
Hit us with it.
You don't hear much about it anymore. Let's build more prisons.
Okay.
Give people that break the law longer sentences in harsher prison
It's getting a bit
conditions.
radical, mate. It's getting a bit radical.
And then maybe that'll be a deterrent so they don't commit crime. I mean, I might be being crazy. I might be being crazy. I don't know. I mean, it's a collector's item, that viewpoint nowadays. I mean, when's the last time you actually heard a minister turn up and say, well, no, let's hit criminals hard so they stop committing crime?
Yeah, I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it?
But news now that we're apparently a government minister talking about more
Fantastic.
prisons.
Yes, Rory Stewart, friend of Westminster, saying that he thinks it's time to... We've got to be realistic, because basically policy has been, so far and for recent years, that we're going to work towards having less people in prison. So they've underfunded prisons, they've made cutbacks, etc., etc. But the reality is, of course, there's more people in prison, and there's set to be 93,000 of them by 2022. In case you're wondering, that's an increase of 10,000 between now and 2022, which is pretty startling, actually, when you think about it.
Well, the population's going up by half a million.
But this is it, isn't it?
So,
It's common number. The fact is, if Britain's population is rising by roughly 538,000 a year, that's legal immigration as well, let's be honest, then it follows that your prison population is going to rise as well. And it's nice to actually hear a government minister come out. He's just said, Rory Stewart, P for Penrith and the border, saying, we just have to be practical. My fear is that the last 20 to 30 years, governments have been funding for lower numbers, and I'm afraid let's stop thinking like that. We've got to be realistic. And he's bob on. The fact is, criminals need to know, don't they, that if they commit a crime, there is going to be that deterrent at the end. Whereas what they know at the minute is there's a criminal system that's set up to try and avoid sending them to prison to start with, because there isn't a space, and then try and keep them there for as little time as possible. I'm sorry, that's not the way I think we should be working things in this country. I think it's time we built more prisons, more prison cells, and started locking people up for longer as a deterrent.
Wow, actually getting tough on crime, eh, guys? It'll never catch on. No. Let's give everyone the benefit of that. I mean, we did a story the other day about a guy that was caught with a knife and a stop and search. Bloody great big blade, guys. I mean, you wonder why these kids were running around with them. He got 12 hours, I think it was something around £100 fine and 12 hours community service. Absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? But this is it. If you go around, and you throw acid on someone, or you do something like that, if you commit a crime where your victim has received a life sentence, whether that's because they're, paralysed or, horrifically burnt or just literally killed, then you should receive a life sentence as well. I think, you should certainly know what it feels like to actually feel the full force of the consequences of the crime that you've committed. But anyway, that's just me.
As ever, guys, we're not going to shirk what's going on around Europe. We're going to cover a couple of European stories now, keep you up to date. I mean, this is one, again, that's just gone completely under the radar. The rise of anti-Semitism that we're now seeing across Europe is deeply disturbing. There was recently an attack, I think it was tail end of last year. Basically, they tried to Molotov cocktail a synagogue in Gothenburg, which is in Sweden. Now, 3 people have now been jailed for this. 2 Palestinians and a Syrian migrant. In December, the gang threw Molotov cocktails. We can actually show you the video. So show the video, and then we'll explain it.
Get it on a second, hang on. There we go. That's it. You can see them there getting ready for it, can't you? And then... Bosh.
Now, the absolute kick in the nuts here is that the 3 people that have been done for this are 3 men that sought asylum in Sweden. As I said, 2 Palestinians, 1 Syrian. So they've been jailed for it. One of them's going to be deported and 2 isn't. Now, for me, that is the perfect example of the insane, absolutely insane border policy you've got. You've allowed people into your country to claim asylum. They've repaid your hospitality by trying to firebomb a synagogue. And then 2 of them you can't even kick out the country because they've got refugee status. It's mad. They're wrong-uns. Boot them out. They clearly have no place in that society if they're going to run around, if they're going to come into your country and trying to carry out that kind of attack. Why would you want them in your country?
I think it's the common sense element of it again, isn't it? You know, I don't know many people. I don't know any, you know, and I don't just hang around with people that think exactly like me. I try and hang around with loads of different people, you know, and I don't know any of them, anyone I've ever met, that would have thought it would be a good idea to keep those people in your country if you could help not doing so, you know. And why again deliberately endanger the people that are there? Why keep them in the country, let them serve their prison sentence, engage with people in the prison population, come out and just do it all over again? You know, we talk about people owing people things, and all right, you're genuine refugees who are in absolute dire straits, you know, and you're genuine asylum seekers, all right, I get that, but people that come in and firebomb a mosque, I mean, firebomb a synagogue, or even if they firebomb a mosque, to be honest, you don't want them anywhere near your country, do you?
If you've allowed these people in on the basis of, you know, they're going to come and contribute to the country, guys. I just don't, you know, to have a situation where these nutcases are then allowed to carry out such actions and you can't even boot them out.
What? Why?
It's frankly mad. And yeah. I'm afraid, you know, it amazes me when you see pundits in sort of TV studios saying, oh, you know, why in Italy are there big electoral sweeping changes go on? Why in Sweden itself are the Swedish Democrats, anti-mass migration, Eurosceptic party, about 7 points clear at the top for the September elections? Well, I wonder why. Because you've got cases like that. And all of the politicians want to do is turn around to each other and shrug to each other and say, oh, well, you know, we can't do anything about it. That's just the system. The system is crippled. The system is wrong. The system, if you look at Germany under Angela Merkel, is under such sustained pressure now that the Interior Minister, we did this story as well, the Interior Minister of Germany is now having meetings with security officials to talk about the precarious security situation. That's a government figure meeting with security service to talk about the consequences of the open border madness overseen by Chancellor Merkel. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked, and he's dealing with, and he needs policy solutions. And that is why you're going to see European election after European election, new forces with new ideas. Take Matteo Salvini. He's stopped migrant boats just pitching up to Italy whenever they fancy and dumping a load of people on there. He wants it done properly.
The fact is, when people have a go at Salvini, because it looks harrowing, when it is a bit harrowing, you know, you've got the 629 migrants trapped on this boat because Italy's refusing them entry, and everyone goes and blames him. Everyone goes, gosh, what a bastard that guy is. Well, the reality is, right, unless it had got to a stage, it had got to a level, been allowed to get to a level by the European Union, where the only way of putting any kind of break or any kind of signal of intent other than the complete open border madness was to do something like that. There was no need for it to have got to that stage if they'd have managed things better initially and over the course of years, and listened to people over the course of those years who have been saying, look, can we make changes to this? This isn't working for us. The fact that it got to the stage where an Italian Interior Minister has had to shut his ports and potentially endanger the lives of these people, well, it turns out they're all right, is testament to how that's Brussels' fault, in my opinion. Anyway.
And just going through to Italy now, you know, again, guys, if you visit westmonster.com, you'll have seen time and time again we've done stories on this. If you look at what's gone on in Italy, you've now got the Eurosceptic coalition that have come. That's 5 Star and Lega. Now, Lega are actually now the most popular party in the country. You combine the vote share, they're like 59.1%. So that's nearly 60% of Italians now are backing parties that have risen up through the ranks, that are critical of the European Union, and they want something done about mass migration. And I'm afraid the old parties aren't offering a solution. And simply to get on your high horse and say, we're really good people, so anyone can come, as many people can come, we're not going to set up an infrastructure for it, we're not going to have checks in place.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
It's a disaster. It's virtue signalling nonsense that actively endangers both social cohesion and national security. It's fundamentally just completely failed. And as I say, that's why you're now going to see people that oppose this madness and, you know, want to oppose Merkel in the EU's direction. That's why you're going to see them progress in the polls now.
Yeah, look, I think there was a way of doing it. I certainly would. I think people would have liked to have seen a more targeted approach, and certainly if you're going to have that kind of policy with regards to refugees and asylum seekers, and the first thing you need to do is set the infrastructure to be able to check who is a refugee and who is an asylum seeker, and then have the infrastructure in place for what you do with them when they get there. That wasn't done. I mean, it was a total dereliction of duty, and even if you argue that it came from a place of, you know, care and love and this, that and the other, you know, if she was running a business as badly as she's run a country in that respect, then she'd have been sacked, I think, and we might be coming to that time.
Guys, last story, as ever, we do like to leave you with a nice little smile on your face. It isn't all doom and gloom. Actually, it's far from doom and gloom. I mean, when you know, it amazes me actually how much of the media is depressed because they got an ass whooping, both in terms of Brexit and Trump, and they're sort of moping around a lot of these journalists waiting for, the great saviour David Miliband to come and sweep to power in Britain. I was like, I'm quite upbeat, guys. I mean, we've got to fight battles on Brexit, but if you look at what's going on across Europe, people have woken up, they're voting for radical change, and I think you're going to see the future direction of things change. But in terms of here, big investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jaguar Land Rover announces £20 billion investment.
It's around 20.
Around £20 billion investment in Brexit Britain. So, over the next 5 years, roughly speaking. So, it's at their factory in Wolverhampton. Senior executives at Jaguar Land Rover and its Indian Tata Motors parent company revealed their plans. So essentially, it means there's going to be £1 billion investment in the Wolverhampton engine plant outright. That employs some 1,600 people, so, well done. It's going to invest a further £4.5 billion a year from 2019 to 2021, and then after that, it's going to be investing 12 to 13% of its revenue. So that's great, and I think it's fantastic to see a company, obviously, not particularly bricking it over Brexit and not scaremongering about it and just saying, look, business obviously is still going to be here. We're still here for business. Britain's still open for business post-Brexit. And, everything's hunky-dory, basically.
Guys, one more time, a cheeky little plug. If you want to support us, if you believe in what we say, if you share our values, we need your backing, we need your support. So please go to westmonster.com/support. As Patrick said there, the sky isn't going to fall in. We are going to keep fighting for our democracy. We are going to keep fighting for independence. We're going to keep flying the flag for England and celebrating as the boys bring back the World Cup.
Football's coming home.
So have a great day. Keep a smile on your face. Visit westmonster.com and we'll see you later.
Take care, guys. All the best.